looking good. You're looking good. I like that. I like that.
Where's everyone?
Well, good morning, everybody. This is my annual public safety update for the end of the year. Barb, we'll get this out to the media, right? So thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm joined by many members of my team: Zeke Tukes, Office of Violence Prevention; Aaliyah Hinton-Williams, Crisis Intervention Services; Dr. Shirley Green, Commissioner of the Department of Recreation and Human Services; Patrick Beath, Corporation Counsel; Chief of Police David Smith; Fire Chief Stefano Napolitano; Deputy Director of ECD Greg Roney; Commissioner, Department of Environmental Service, Interim Commissioner Capoteo County, and our Emergency Manager, Fred Ryan. I want to thank you all for being here today. As you know, I regularly give an update on the end of the year on where we are as it relates to public safety, but more importantly about things that we are going to do to move forward. These public safety updates, as you know, has been a regular feature since I've instituted my gun violence state of emergency that I declared in 2022, because and we want to continue to have continuous communication. That's one of the most highest things that I value, as you know, just putting the numbers out there, putting the numbers where they are and letting the folks decide. We've come a long way in the right direction since violent crime and firearm violence reached their historic peaks during the pandemic. I would urge you to go back and look at your news stories that you have written going back to 2020. We had some of the highest levels of violence that we have seen in the history of the city. And this wasn't just in Rochester, this was across the country because of what was happening during the pandemic. At the last public safety update, I announced that shootings have returned to pre-pandemic levels. And today I'm pleased to report that that downward trajectory is continuing. Earlier this month, the rolling total of shootings in the previous 365-day period fell below 200 for the first time since June of 2020. And three firearm metrics that we track closely under our participation with the New York State Gun-Involved Violence Elimination Initiative are below the 5-year average by more than 30%. Shootings are down 38%. The number of people injured by gunfire are down 34%. And homicides as a result of gun violence are down 32%. If you remember, I instituted the gun violence state of emergency because there were far too many people being killed by firearms. Again, I am not satisfied with these numbers, but I am gratified because of the work that we are doing to continue to drive these numbers down. Especially because within those numbers, we are seeing a corresponding sharp decline in the number of juvenile victims of gunfire. Victims 17 and under, which have fallen by more than half of the high points during the pandemic. One of the things that concerned me the most during the pandemic was the number of young people under the age of 17 that were being hit by gunfire. And we wanted to bring those numbers down. And again, gratified but not satisfied, which is why I renewed the gun violence state of emergency at the start of this month. And guess what? I'm gonna renew it again next month. And I'll probably keep renewing it, even though the numbers continue to fall. So if your question is, am I gonna stop renewing the gun violence emergency? No, I'm not. Even as these numbers move in the right direction, violent crime and gun violence remains our number one challenge and will remain my number one priority, because I want this community to not have any acceptable level of gun violence. No level of gun violence is acceptable, but we do need to talk about when we're moving in the right trajectory. And I always say, as I say, I make no apologies for that. Another reason why I'm gratified by these declines is that they are the result of historic partnerships that we've been able to forge with law enforcement and agencies at every level of government. I want to thank in particular the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the U.S. Marshal's Office, the U.S. District Attorney's Office, the New York State Police, Monroe County Parole and Probation, and the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Together, we have implemented a three-pronged strategy of prevention, intervention, and suppression that has been extremely effective in helping us reduce not only gun violence, but also those other serious crime categories. What's more, these partnerships are also proving to be very effective in helping us confront what I call quality of life crimes. And these quality of life crimes are important because when gun violence and these other numbers go down, if somebody sees someone stealing something from the store or they're stealing a car, that automatically puts up people's antenna and they say, oh, crime, crime. As our tactics for addressing violent crime gain more traction, we found ways to leverage those same partnerships to address those incidences that may not get the same media attention as shootings and homicides. But they are top of mind of many residents and business owners. As I've said many times, when it comes to public safety, perception is just as important as reality. And in this country, boy, is it. I can tell someone the sky is blue. I can tell some of you the sky is blue. And somebody still would tell me it's green because in their perception, they think the sky is green. But that perception is still extremely important. So we have to work overtime to over-communicate what is and to continue to talk about it. So we have to maintain a relentless focus on all areas of crimes. For instance, the New York State Police is helping us run retail theft details that use some of the same techniques we use for gun crimes to identify known shoplifters and their patterns, which allow us to take a more proactive approach when responding to 911 calls. And now, larcenies have not only fallen well below pre-pandemic levels, they are on track to fall to their lowest numbers in almost 25 years. And the state police also provides helicopters to support our campaigns to address those big hordes of ATV and dirt bikes that pop up on the streets. And my favorite thing to do with the ATV and dirt bikes is to take them apart. I like when we get them off the street and we take them apart. If you want to ride an ATV and dirt bike, ride them in the places where you're supposed to, not where you are distracting people and almost hitting little kids and old people that are on the streets. So we've been tracking these vehicles that are being illegally driven on our streets so we can confiscate them and dismantle them, and that is what we're doing. So far this year, we've confiscated 150 dirt bikes and ATVs through our details. Most of those have been over the summer. We continue to focus on auto thefts. We know that we had a major issue last year with auto thefts. They still are somewhat of a challenge, but because of our partnership with Monroe County and the JEDS program, we are working on continuing to drive those numbers down. And I'm confident the lessons of the JEDS program, which includes a focus on supporting offenders, entire families, is building important momentum in reaching those troubled youth way beyond this Kia challenge. The recidivism rate, we know, for the young people enrolled in the JEDS program is less than 3%. And this emphasis on collaboration doesn't just apply to our partners in other agencies. It also applies to these folks that you see here that are helping to partner to change the trajectory of violent crime and other crimes in our community. The departments within City Hall have been working together in ways they never did before. And our early focus on violent crime has been a driving factor in the cross-department cohesion. Our work within City Hall has taken an even tighter focus on specific areas of our city and how we can create what are effectively being called custom solutions for specific problems in specific areas. And I'm going to give you some examples. Shutting down vehicle traffic in the East End Entertainment District on Saturday nights is a good example of that. After we had that one dangerous incident in that vibrant nightlife district, we needed to make sure that people who come out and enjoy Saturday nights at some of our most popular bars and nightclubs are not stymied by people who may have other objectives. Not only is this effort keeping patrons secure, it's creating an even more lively entertainment scene in the East End. So now if you go to the East End on Saturday night, guess what you see? People walking and you see food trucks. And that was an example of me using the gun violence state of emergency, being innovative, creative, nimble, and quick. We effectively created a pedestrian mall every weekend where food trucks are adding to the atmosphere. People can gather with their friends, access rideshare, which is safer than driving a car in that area. And also you're seeing pedestrians walking. In other downtown neighborhoods, thanks to Mr. Akanze and his team, the Department of Environmental Services has installed speed humps near Parcel 5 to address the issue with road racing. I saw a video of individuals thinking that they could road race around Parcel 5. And then I had neighbors calling the mayor's office saying this is ridiculous. And we said we're not going to tolerate it. So we've eliminated the road racing that was happening around Parcel 5 because people thought it was cool to race around there. They do that now, their cars probably will be destroyed because of the speed bumps that are there. At Martin Luther King Memorial Park, you remember we had some problems there earlier in the year where we had people thinking they could hang out there after hours. We limited park hours and increased overnight security. and close the road every night to car traffic. And we are continuing to do that until I decide that we won't need to do it anymore. But we're going to continue that, and that's going to continue. Also along the Monroe Avenue corridor, which has been a challenge, to say the least, over the last couple of months, we brought a custom solution there for individuals who disrupt business activity there. We are having more walking patrols to address the challenges presented. We didn't put that out in the news, we're just doing it. But now you know. Our law department has also engaged directly with residents and business owners, digging in to understand what's at play in specific situations and developing solutions that are designed especially for the situations at hand. The law department applies the gun violence state of emergency to hold property owners accountable when they're enabling violent crime and gun violence. They meet with these owners to understand the specific dynamics of each scenario and work directly with them to make the location safer for the neighborhoods. We've also recently expanded our neighborhood ambassador program recently to Monroe Avenue. So our neighborhood ambassador program is now on Jefferson Avenue, Lyle Avenue, North Clinton Avenue, and now Monroe Avenue. We're using funds from our share of the Opioid Settlement Fund to contract with community organizations to serve as ambassadors who can engage with people and other folks on the street that are in clear need of services, or to help them find those services. Our heightened focus on code enforcement and nuisance property abatement extends beyond the property owners associated with violence to include those who are degrading the quality of life for our tenants and neighbors. Our new code enforcement inspectors assigned to the NSCs are also holding people accountable for things like high grass, weeds, litter, and other instances of parking lots that are being littered with garbage. We don't allow this in any of the surrounding towns. But we actually have some people in this community that don't live in the community that will come in and say, oh, but you should do it in Rochester. You should let people put garbage anywhere they want. But where some of you live, you wouldn't dare let that happen. You wouldn't dare. But some people think it's okay in Rochester. We say it's not okay in Rochester. And because some people have been so conditioned to it, they think that it's okay, that we should just go along with it. And sometimes they contact some folks in the media to say, oh, the city's cleaning it up. They shouldn't. We will continue to clean up our city. We won't be like some other cities, which I will not name. The upcoming rollout of our Neighbors in Action initiative will also bring these focus with custom solutions to our neighborhoods by enhancing collaboration with our partners at the grassroots level. We announced at the end of September, right here, many of you were here, NIA, which will engage neighborhood residents to learn what they want to focus on, because it is about we, not me. We are still taking survey feedback and encourage people to check out the city's website to weigh in on the types of efforts they'd like to see included in the NIA program. The all hands on deck, data-driven approach we brought to violent crime and gun violence has taught us that sometimes our biggest problems require a hyper focus on the 3 Ps. P. People, places, and patterns that have disproportionately impact on our quality of life. After all, nothing influences human behavior more than other humans. And a perfect example of that is the Advanced Peacemaker Fellowship in the 10th Ward area is another perfect example of a targeted approach designed for a specific neighborhood. And Mr. Tukes can talk about this. So far, we've had a very intensive intervention with a relatively small number of individuals in the 10th Ward area of the Edgerton neighborhood. Yet since we launched that program, homicides in the 10th Ward have fallen from 20 in 2021, before I was sworn in as mayor. I was sworn in as mayor January 1st, 2022. At the end of 2021, we had 20 homicides in the 10th Ward. We had 8 last year. So far this year, we've had 2. So now we're seeing residents stepping up and drive their own progress in that area. After many years of dormancy, the Edgerton Area Neighborhood Association has revised under the leadership of residents like Debbie Smith and Lydia Rivera. In fact, 16 people from the Edgerton and Lau Otis Neighborhood Association and the Lau Ave Business Association recently completed training to be part of the Police Citizens Together Against Crime Neighborhood Watch program. So what I am doing and what we are doing is not because I'm saying that it's great that we do it. The residents are demanding it. This is what the residents want to see. They're not coming to City Hall. They're talking about this in their neighborhoods, and we're going to their neighborhoods to hear from them. Many of you probably have not interviewed them or heard from them because they're busy working in their neighborhoods to create change, and I'm happy with them. So as I look back over the past 3 years, I recognize that the plague of violent crime that held a firm grip on our city at the start of 2022, as we were coming out of the pandemic, was an unprecedented challenge that we're confronting with unprecedented levels of collaboration, both inside and outside of City Hall. When I took office, I said, it is we, not me, and that mantra continues today, and it will continue. We are not going to take our feet off the gas. Today it is the operational framework of my entire administration and our relationship with our partners and allies. And for that, I am extremely grateful. Now I'm going to have some of our leaders give some brief updates on other things that we are working on. We are very proud of this. Still got work to do. And I want to say this, one homicide and one shooting is way too many. I met with the family of a heinous homicide that happened in April yesterday in my office. So any homicide, any shooting, it still has one person or a family that is attached to it. So we have to remember that. But we have to make sure that we put out where we are. We have to put out a report card. And this is the report card. We have to put out a report card every couple of months to say where we are so we can know where we need to get better. And that's the trust and transparency of my administration. So these numbers are not something that I'm making up. They're numbers that are coming from the Open Data Portal. You can look at them, and they are here. They are real numbers. So now I want to have Chief Smith and Corporation Counsel Beath, who will talk about our suppression and accountability. And then after that, I'll call back Dr. Green. So Chief Smith and Corporation Counsel.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor covered quite a bit. Obviously, we are a team. We all work in concert. I do have some more specific numbers. Before I get into that, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, besides the reduction in crime, the tremendous increase in community engagement that this department has seen over the past 3 years. Again, you know, coming right off that incredible football game that we brought to Rochester. Also, you know, I do hear all the time, well, you know, you're fudging the numbers, you're making up the numbers. All of our numbers are on the Open Data Portal. They're available for anyone to see. Hopefully with another 6 months, we will also have the Measures for Justice Data Portal up, which is going to be another place where folks can go. And I mean, you can go, you can't break it, go play around on it. All the numbers are there. So for some numbers, for some updates, shooting victims. As of right now, we are at 198, which is less than 200 persons shot in the last 365 calendar days. Again, one of the comparisons we like to do is a rolling 365 and not just year to year. Crime doesn't really limit itself to a 12-month calendar. So we're at 183 shooting victims year to date compared to last year's 270, if you want to compare it that way. That is a 32% decrease over last year. Homicides, we're at 46 year to date. Last year at this time, we had 55. 2 years ago at this time, we had 72. 3 years ago at this time, we had 77. So far year to date this year, we have had 27 victims killed by firearms. We were at 40 this time last year. That is a 32% decrease in the number of people killed by firearms. Major crimes continues to have an above average closure rate. The national average for homicide closures is 57%. Currently, Captain Ambrino and team are at 75%. We fully expect to close out the year a little bit higher than that. Firearms in general. For the first time in years, we partnered with the Attorney General's office and did a gun buyback program. The results of this program, we recovered over 500 firearms that were brought in and turned over to us. So that brings us year to date for a total of 1,174 firearms recovered this year. Over 500 of those firearms were crime guns. That means they were guns that were used in a crime in the city of Rochester. As I said, when I announced, you know, that our major focus was going to be shootings, shooting victims, shooting investigations, I also stressed that when we were able to bring those down, officers would have more time to address other issues, such as quality of life issues, calls for service. We have held good to that. With a reduction in shootings, we have increased in a number of these areas. So, as the mayor said, we continue to address Monroe Avenue, for quality of life issues. We have the walking posts. We continue to work with the law department utilizing the gun violence emergency to close problematic locations. Community Affairs continues their walking posts in the downtown area. And if you remember when we did the reorganization, I said specifically this would give us the ability to have dedicated foot patrol back in the downtown area. So that continues, along with a significant amount of outreach to the homeless population. The mayor touched on the East End detail, working with other city departments. We continue to operate the special event zone in the East End, working with the business owners. And just a quick update, it was 1 year ago in October that we did the department reorganization. Again, we only have 1 year of data coming back from that now. We're a year in. You know, you really can't fully evaluate until you have a good 2-3 years of data. However, preliminarily, I can tell you our calls for service response times have decreased slightly. But the major thing, as I said before, with a change in workload is we have seen a 70% increase in the proactive work that the officers are doing. That is self-generated jobs, walking patrols, community outreach, traffic stops, things like that with their downtime. The newest member of my command staff, Commander Desane, when he came on board, I tasked him with getting the officers out of their cars, doing foot patrol. He mandated that each officer during their shift is required to do 2 15-minute walking patrols a day. We, of course, check that. We are at 90% compliance on that. So out of each officer's day, they're all getting out of the car, doing 30 minutes. And then finally, just to add, you know, I touched on non-fatal shootings. Our non-fatal shooting unit, which is a pilot program, is actually going to be, the state is sending evaluators in. It's going to become a model statewide for non-fatal shooting investigations. So right now, our non-fatal shooting investigations is at a 35% closure rate. Nationwide, the average is somewhere around 17%. But we also have a 92% conviction rate with the non-fatal shootings unit. And again, what that does is that works in conjunction with the DA's office, and we investigate every single shooting as if it were a murder, and we're seeing significant results. With that, I will hand it back.
Thank you, Chief. And I sat in on a non-fatal shooting meeting at the Public Safety Building. Treating every shooting as a homicide is something that we've always wanted to do, but we also wanted to send a message to make people think twice before they pull out a gun and think they can shoot someone. And the non-fatal shootings are sometimes harder to solve than a homicide because the victim may not want to cooperate. And what we said is, if they don't want to cooperate, we have cameras, we have video, we have other data that we can use to solve non-fatal shootings. And that is something that we want to continue. Before, the rate was in the single digits. And we want to continue to put a focus on those. Mr. Beath, if you can talk about some of our legal efforts as it relates to the emergency.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. The law department continues to aggressively target nuisance properties. We do this collaborating with other city departments, NSCs, RPD. We do it through nuisance points, and we do it through issuance by the mayor of gun violence emergency closure orders. What I want to talk about today, though, is not the places we've shut down, but the places where we've gotten cooperation from owners, sometimes from owners who had no idea what was going on at their properties and wouldn't have but for the reach out from the city. The first property I want to talk about is 1275 Mount Read Boulevard. Large warehouse space, multiple tenants. There were large parties happening there. The sorts of parties that we have seen in the past lead to fights, that lead to gun violence, that lead to people being injured or killed. We wanted to stop that conduct before it got out of control. When we found out about these parties, we reached out to the owner. The owner had no idea. No idea. We've since worked with the owner. The tenant that had that space is out. We've helped the owner come up with better backgrounding policies to make sure the tenants that are put in that space are responsible. And we're working with the owner to make sure that they're implementing appropriate security upgrades so that the owner has eyes on that facility and understands what the tenant is doing. Another example of this sort of thing, right around the corner from City Hall, 125 State Street, a location that during the day is a great creative space. But at night, was hosting illegal parties, illegal entertainments without an entertainment license. One of those parties spilled out onto the street and there was a shooting right in the backyard of City Hall. Untenable. We called the owner. The owner had no idea. The tenant is a good tenant. The owner worked with the tenant to make sure that that creative space during the day stayed there and is there still, and that the illegal nighttime parties that led to violence ended, and they have ended. These are great examples of how we can cooperate with folks to make sure violence stops or illegal conduct stops before it becomes violence. And there's maybe no greater example of this sort of cooperation than what the mayor and the chief have already talked about, the work we've done in the East End Entertainment District. Over the summer, we had some outbreaks of violence. We couldn't take that anymore. And so as the mayor said, we creatively used the emergency order to create a safe space for people who want to socialize in the East End, a pedestrian-only entertainment district on Saturday nights. And it's been great. We meet consistently with the building and bar owners. There's an ongoing conversation, and it's not just a one-size-fits-all. We've tweaked what we're doing week after week to make it work in the interests of safety of our residents and of our visitors, and also the business interests of the folks who own buildings and bars down in the East End. And we're going to continue those meetings. And so this isn't all about a hammer. This isn't all about closing places down. This is sometimes about notice and working together. And we hope to be able to do that more and more with folks throughout the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Corporation Counsel Beath. And, you know, as I say this, I said this on Monday, guess what? No one is coming to save Rochester. No one's flying in with a cape. We have to save Rochester ourselves. And that is what we're doing by working with folks, by being collaborative. Collaboration is the key here. And I will tell you, the reason why a lot of the numbers that you see is not because we're so great, and you do have great people up here, it's because the community has stepped up. I have not had I couldn't ask for a better partner than the community groups, the businesses that we are working with. That's been really the best part of this whole process, has been the communities. At East End, Lau Avenue, I can name so many neighborhoods where they've said, oh, city, let's partner together. And it makes our job that much easier. With that, I want to bring up Dr. Shirley Green, who will make some comments on the prevention front on what we're doing, and then followed by Aaliyah Hinton and then Zekwe Tukes. So let me have Dr. Green. You can come on up.
Thank you, Mayor. The Department of Recreation and Human Services is fully on board with Mayor Evans' all-hands-on-deck approach to public safety and violence prevention, especially when it comes to children. We want parents and caregivers to know that one of the best ways to help their child stay safe and prepare them to become successful citizens in our community is to take advantage of the many programs, events, and activities that we have to offer in our rec centers, at the sports complex, ice rink, camps, and outdoor programs. Winter programming at the Art Centers begins next week, and you can find all the exciting programs right here in the Winter Art Guide. This includes hundreds of after-school programs that keep young people and adults physically active, mentally engaged, and emotionally supported in the presence of caring adults. This quarter's cover of the Art Guide and feature story even highlights our upcoming esports program. We are looking for opportunities to engage with kids, programs that they are interested in, and esports is definitely a perfect example of that. And with Christmas and New Year's holiday falling on Wednesday this year, City School District and other school districts' calendar has 2 full weeks of holiday recess. That can be pretty stressful for parents who are working. But we say, don't worry. The Art Centers will be converting their hours to 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. from December 23rd through January 3rd, with the exception of Christmas and New Year's. Breakfast and lunch will be available for all of the participants who come to the rec centers. Rec centers have so much to offer. No longer is it just come play basketball. The Youth Voice One Vision Youth elected their new president and vice president a few weeks ago, and the candidates held a debate at the Chambers building. The energy in the room was invigorating, and any parent would be proud to have their child part of programs such as this. Our centers are just one set of programs we offer to help keep kids safe and supported. We also have Biz Kids, teaching young children to become entrepreneurs. And in February, our Summer of Opportunity application opens up for youth ages 14 to 20. We encourage parents to start applying for those summer jobs. So we want the parents and caregivers to know the Department of Recreation and Human Services is in your corner. Visit us at cityofrochester.gov/RCentral to see all the great things we have to offer. Hurry up and register soon to reserve your child's seat at their favorite program. My staff and I are so grateful for the opportunity to help children we do to serve in such meaningful ways. This is truly God's work. I turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you. As I said, I hope that there is a way for people to connect the dots. If you keep kids working, if you keep them involved in good activities, that is how we will drive down youth violence and other nonsense that kids sometimes get themselves involved in. Drop them off at our center. Look how long this guide is. This is all types of activities that we have. Put this information out there. If someone says they don't know what their kid, what they need their kid to do, put it out. One of you guys just did a great article on esports that we're trying to get done in our centers. That's an opportunity. And look what's on the cover. Our esports that we're looking at launching. We have soccer. Rochester City Soccer League is probably one of the best in the county. So that's the goal. You heard from the intervention side, but now we want to talk about how we can help do those things. I want to have Zeke Tukes come up and talk a little bit about Pathways to Peace. He's our director in the Office of Violence Prevention. He has his hands full, but we've been able to do some innovative things to kick off the school year. And I want him to talk about how those are progressing and how we will be going forward going into 2025. Mr. Tukes.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. The Mayor's Office of Violence Prevention continues to lead critical prevention and intervention initiatives designed to reduce violence and improve the quality of life for Rochester families. Our efforts focus on addressing challenges where they occur, whether that's in schools, on the streets, or in the broader community. We are ensuring that the people of our community have the support they need to thrive. This year, in our partnership with the Rochester City School District, Pathways to Peace launched a proactive case management model. In this model, the schools identify the students with the highest need for targeted intervention. In just a few months, in some schools, we've already seen noticeable improvement with fewer fights, fewer disruptions, and improved attendance. Pathways to Peace school staff have mediated serious conflicts involving students and families that have led to successful outcomes. In one instance, our staff gathered vital information that led to the recovery of a gun that was brought near a school. That actually prevented potential harm and ensured safety for the school as well as for the community. Pathways to Peace staff has also accompanied students to court, advocating for students on their behalf and ensuring that they have the resources they need to succeed after going through very challenging circumstances. While the school-based team is making strides and they're doing great, they're making a lot of strides, the tireless efforts of our street outreach team deserves equal recognition as well. Our dedicated outreach team, they are out in the community every night working in challenging environments to de-escalate conflicts, mediate disputes, and prevent violence before they even happen, before it happens. What our outreach team does, it's not only about the immediate support or crisis management, but it's about building that long-term relationship and trust within the community. I could not be more proud of our Pathways to Peace team right now for the outstanding work and dedication that they display, both in our schools as well as our outreach team. Their dedication to our mission, their resilience in difficult situations, their unwavering belief in the potential of our Rochester's youth. This is really inspiring to see. So all these are just efforts, and these are just true testaments to what happens when the community and everyone, when we invest in our youth. So we want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tukes, and for all the work that you do in that effort. And I want to call up Aaliyah Hinton Williams, who will talk about the services we offer people who are experiencing an emotional or mental health crisis, which can be especially challenging during the holiday season. Now, one of the things that we continue to work on, opioid epidemic, mental health. It is a crisis in our community and a crisis across the country. We are still recovering from the pandemic, as well as the lack of mental health beds that we have in our community. And you see it play out regularly on our streets, where you see people who are in need of serious services as it relates to mental health services. But we have our PIC team and other services that I want Aaliyah to talk about, particularly as we get ready to go into Thanksgiving next week, where there is sometimes heightened conflict and heightened mental health issues. If you lost a loved one and you're getting ready to sit at that Thanksgiving table and they're not there, that can trigger something. But there's help out there, and I want Aaliyah to come speak to that. Aaliyah?
Good morning. Most of us view the holiday season as a happy and joyous time of the year. However, the reality is that national statistics tell us that nearly half of U.S. adults, 49%, would describe their stress levels between November and January as moderate. 38% of people say the holidays cause increased stress, depression, and anxiety. 45% of students in high school are already stressed almost every day in school. And the holiday season brings additional disruptions and changes for young people and families. For those of us who struggle with mental and behavioral health illnesses, have experienced the loss of a family member to a homicide, and I can tell you from personal experiences that when you've lost someone to homicide, holidays will never be the same. Those who are dealing with economic hardships on a daily basis, holidays can be lonely and stressful, impacting our mental and emotional well-being, exacerbating pre-existing mental health conditions, including depression, anxiety, and PTSD, as well as intensifying grief and pain from loss and contributing to already existing financial stressors. Because the Crisis Intervention Services Unit supports our community members every day experiencing crisis, trauma, or victimization, it is important that we're certain that the community is aware that help is available. If you are experiencing an immediate crisis for yourself or a family member or someone that you work with, please contact the Person in Crisis PIC team by dialing 988. Again, that's 988, and simply ask for the PIC team. Other supports available for mental and behavioral health crisis include the Behavioral Health Access and Crisis Center, or BHAC, which serves adults ages 18 and over without an appointment at the St. Mary's Medical Campus. The Brighter Days Pediatric Mental Health Urgent Care Center at Strong Hospital for young people up to age 18 is located at 300 Crittenden Boulevard. The Center for Youth is located at 905 Monroe Avenue. The Willow Domestic Violence Center can be reached at 222-7233. The Veterans Outreach Center is 546-1081, 988, and of course 211. There are also many community agencies, and I have a copy right here I'm going to leave with Barbara. These are agencies that are providing free Thanksgiving and Christmas resources. For additional information, please contact the Crisis Intervention Services Community Support Team for a list of these and other available community resources and for help navigating these resources. The number is 428-6630. Mayor?
Thank you. And again, we want to make sure that individuals know that there is help for those experiencing loss and mental health challenges, not just during this time, but they're more acute during this year, during this time of the year. Between now and Christmas, it's tough in our city. I get nervous about the domestic violence, mental health violence that happens between that time period. But there's help out there that we want to make sure that people take advantage of as we head into this holiday season. I want to bring the fire chief up. Our thoughts are with the fire department. You see the chief has a black band over his badge because we lost one of our most beloved lieutenants in the fire department, Lieutenant Sidorenko. And our thoughts are with the entire RFD family. But fires, you recently saw a huge warehouse fire that took place on Canal Street. The chief can talk about the number of fires that we have seen as a result of unintended cooking and those types of things. So as the holiday season begins 1 week from today, Fire Chief will close it out with a message about a special precaution to keep our homes safe over the holidays and during the winter. Public safety extends just beyond guns, right? This is why you have the fire chief here. Fire safety is also public safety. And I want to have the chief talk to us about fire safety and tips that we need to be aware of as we go into this holiday season. Chief.
Thank you, Your Honor, and good morning. First, I'd like to thank the mayor for acknowledging the loss of one of our lieutenants, Lieutenant Sidorenko. As the mayor said, a beloved member of our department, a true mentor, friend, and an outstanding human being. So this year, Rochester Fire is on track to respond to over 40,000 requests for services. And with those 40,000 requests for services, that's in partnership with everyone that you see here. It is a collaborative effort. But as we move into the winter months and we spend more time indoors, it's important to be mindful of the safety hazards that could arise during the season. We become comfortable, we become complacent. So I'd like to offer some safety tips to avoid potential issues that could occur. The first is unattended candles. We have spoken about unattended candles for over 250 years, yet we still have fires in 2024 because of candles left unattended. Please, especially in the home, we prefer you use an electronic candle, any type of candle that is not actually burning. But if you choose to use one, please stay in the room, stay in vicinity with it, and never around children. Our second is cooking fires. Cooking fires are the leading cause of home fires during the winter. Always stay in the kitchen while cooking, especially while frying, grilling, or broiling food. Keep flammable materials such as dish towels, paper products away from the stove or oven, and never leave them in the kitchen unattended. One other area is if you are cooking, we have a number of injuries, especially to children, from scalding and boiling burns. Please make sure your children are not in the kitchen. Carbon monoxide poisoning. Carbon monoxide, as we know, is a tasteless, colorless, odorless gas. It is truly the silent killer. As we use our heating systems, fireplaces, generators more often in the colder months, it's critical to ensure these appliances are properly maintained and functioning. Always install and test your carbon monoxide detectors on every level of your home and near the sleeping areas. If you don't have one, please call 311 and they will dispatch Rochester Fire and we will come and install a carbon monoxide detector as well as a smoke detector in your residence. If you need that unit checked and you can't do it yourself, call 311. We will come and test the unit for you. By being proactive and following these simple safety guidelines, we can help prevent fires and other hazards that are more common during the winter season. I ask you to please stay vigilant as we go into the colder months. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. I mean, we sometimes forget when we talk about public safety about the fire side, and it is absolutely critical, particularly as we go into this season. I also want to talk about, just to wrap up here, pedestrian safety, which is why I'm glad to see us moving forward. You'll be hearing more about this with our Vision Zero plan to bring crash and fatalities to zero. We got a lot of work to do there. People said, are you going to bring back automated enforcement? Yeah, we are, hopefully, eventually, because the number of crash and fatalities that we have seen is absolutely out of control, ridiculous. We just had a Do the Right Thing award winner who got the award because they pulled their little sister out from under a car. I mean, the pedestrian safety is out of control, the dangers that we have there. And you'll continue to hear more about that as we talk about pedestrian safety. So I want to thank the team for being here today. Thank you, media, for being here today, and anyone else that might be watching. I know this was a lot, but this is my end of the year comprehensive public safety, and I may not give another one of these updates until January, but I wanted you to know where we are, where we stand, but more importantly, just some tips of things that we need to be thinking about as we go throughout the year. I have to run to another event, but I will be able to take 2 or 3 questions if people may have questions. Berkeley?
When you look at the open data portal, one of the things you find is that between January and August of this year, the city was averaging 1 homicide a week. But between September and November, it's 1 every 2 weeks, 50% drop. And other than school going back in session, I'm wondering what happened.
Well, I'd like to think that it's our continued focus. I mean, you know, we really continue to renew. I mentioned the 3 Ps, people, places. That's extremely important for us. I don't know if that's is a driver. I think that it is absolutely a contributing factor. Chief, anything else you want to add to that? The drop?
No, when you're on the open data portal, Burke, if you actually look at shooting victims, they decreased this year starting in June and decreased through the summer months, decreased from June until now, which again is unheard of. And again, it's the efforts we're making. It's evidence-based, it's data-driven. You know, we're making the most of my resources, the mayor's resources, the sheriff's resources. The state police just announced they're staying now until the first of the year. So, you know, it all adds up. Many hands make light work.
Yeah, and I mean, the key thing that we have to zero into, Burke, also is the shootings. If you can drop down the number of shootings, that means you'll have less of a person being killed by a homicide. So we have to zero in on those. And then the other piece is, you know, this non-fatal shooting thing, we're one of the few in the state that does this. We have to do that because the data shows that if you broadcast to people what the clearance rate is, particularly as non-fatal shootings, a person will think twice before they pull that figure. And just today, the chief sent me, and it's not public yet, I think the names of 4 or 5 people that we know perpetrated shootings. We just haven't arrested them. But we know who they are. We got beautiful pictures of them. I mean, the pictures are as clear as my kids' school pictures. So we know who they are, and we're gonna get them. And then, you know, they run to North Carolina, you know, they run to different places, but we know who they are. And that's why focusing on these non-fatal shootings is so very, very important, because we think that if we can share the message that you're being arrested for shooting someone, you won't do it. The other reason why we always announce when we arrest somebody for a gun, because we want to send the message also that you should not be carrying an illegal handgun. Too many people carry illegal handguns. If you want a gun, nothing wrong with having a gun. Go to the clerk's office and go through the process and get one legally. But most people that carry illegal handguns, they are the perpetrators of violence. 99.99% of the people that have been arrested for shooting someone or killing someone, and if it was a gun crime, it was done with an illegal handgun. All of them this year. Almost all of them. And you can check that out. Almost all of them. Okay, I can take maybe 2 more questions. Any others? I know people are getting... I don't know if we'll make it permanent, but it's something that we want to look at long term. I will tell you, I'm looking at pedestrian malls in 2 areas. Now, please don't go saying that I'm going to do it. I said looking at. Also, Gibbs Street, maybe. But it would be good to have a pedestrian mall on East Avenue, because my goal with East Avenue is to bring it back to when we used to have the East End festivals and when I used to go out. Now, that was a long time ago, before gray hair and before a kid. But I spent, you know how much time I spent on East Avenue? When I was in my 20s, I mean, it was the underground. You had the bar that you could go downstairs, and people, you didn't worry about shootings. Yeah, there would be fights, but you didn't worry about shooting. So as much as we can make that safe. Now, what I like about what we've been able to do on East Avenue is we got food trucks there now. We would have never been able to do that 3 months ago. I would have said heck no. And in fact, 3 months ago, I was telling food trucks to move out of the way because people were gathering around and stuff was happening. But now that zone, we've created that, we might look at making that mall, making that a friendly pedestrian mall permanently. But that will take time, obviously, to do that permanently. But we'll continue to do it in terms of our entertainment zone, like we're doing now. And we'll also be doing that on Thanksgiving. So what you see on Saturday, you will see the night before Thanksgiving. For those of you older people that might not know, the night before Thanksgiving, I guess, is a night where everybody goes out and has a good time. I guess they don't want to be with their families, so they go out to have a good time at the bar. So they do that. Okay. Any last questions? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll look forward to the next update. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Whose pen? Nice pen.